Illinois has an affordable housing crisis, and a new study shows construction crews would need to more than double their current workload to fill that need.
Tyler and Janice, this 37-page study was published this week by researchers at the Illinois Economy Public Institute and University of Illinois. What they found:
something ugly is happening in Illinois real estate. Entire neighborhoods that once sold in weeks are now sitting empty for months. And in places like Peoria, prices have already fallen double digits in just 2 years. This isn't a dip. It's the early stage of a full-blown crash. Stick with me because I'm going to show you the 10 cities where the bottom is falling out fastest and why 2025 will be remembered as the year Illinois housing broke. Number 10. Kankakee. The warning signs in this forgotten corner of Illinois are impossible to ignore. Home sales plummeted 15.4% just from December to January, and that's not seasonal, that's panic. When a market loses that much momentum that quickly, you know something's fundamentally broken. 58% of homes sold below asking price in January 2025. Think about that for a second. More than half of all sellers had to take less than they wanted just to get out. That's not a healthy market, that's desperation pricing in action. The numbers get worse when you dig deeper. Kankakee has seen price increases of 79.2% over recent years, but here's the problem: wages didn't follow. The median household income can't support these inflated prices, creating an affordability crisis that's about to explode. Local economic drivers tell the real story. Manufacturing jobs have been bleeding out of Kankakee County for years. Without stable employment, who's going to buy these overpriced homes? The answer is nobody, which is exactly why sales are collapsing. Here's your reality check. When more than half of all sales happen below asking price and sales volume drops 15% in 1 month, you're not looking at a correction. You're witnessing the early stages of a housing market crash that's about to accelerate. But here's the kicker: Kankakee still isn't the worst city on our list. Number 9. Danville. Welcome to the canary in the coal mine of Illinois real estate. Home prices dropped 3.9% year over year, with the median falling to just $94,500. When prices are already that low and still falling, you know the market has given up completely. The sales data reveals the true horror story. 72% of homes sold below asking price in February 2025. That's not just a buyer's market, that's a fire sale where sellers are practically begging people to take their properties. But wait, it gets worse. Average listing time jumped to 86 days, up 110.2% from the previous year. When homes sit empty for nearly 3 months in a market where prices are already rock bottom, that tells you demand has completely evaporated. The economic fundamentals paint an even bleaker picture. Danville's population has been shrinking for decades, manufacturing jobs disappeared years ago, and young people flee as soon as they graduate high school. Without population growth or job creation, real estate becomes worthless paper. Here's the brutal truth about Danville. When 72% of sellers have to accept below asking price and homes sit empty for 3 months, you're not dealing with market adjustments. You're watching economic death throes play out in real time, and we're just getting started with our countdown. Number 8. East St. Louis. This city represents everything wrong with Illinois real estate in 2025. The Metro East region, anchored by East St. Louis, shows elevated inventory of 3.1 month supply. Sounds good until you realize nobody wants to buy these properties at any price. The violent statistics tell part of the story, but the economic data tells the rest. Property values have been in free fall for years, and the recent attempts at revitalization can't overcome decades of disinvestment. New affordable housing developments are being built, but affordable housing in a city where middle-class families won't live doesn't solve the fundamental problem. Population flight accelerated during the pandemic and never stopped. Young professionals won't move to East Street. Louis, regardless of housing prices, creating a vicious cycle where lower prices attract fewer, not more, buyers. That's the opposite of how economics is supposed to work. The tax burden makes everything worse. Illinois already has the second highest property taxes in the nation, but East St. Louis residents get almost nothing in return. Poor schools, inadequate infrastructure, and limited public services mean buyers pay premium taxes for third world conditions. Commercial real estate tells the real story. Empty storefronts line the main streets, major employers left years ago, and the service economy never developed. Without jobs, retail, or basic amenities, residential real estate becomes practically worthless. Here's your wake-up call. When affordable housing initiatives become the primary economic development strategy, you're not building a community. You're managing decline, and that decline is about to accelerate dramatically. Number 7. Mount Vernon. The forecast models have Mount Vernon marked for disaster, and the current data confirms their worst predictions. Experts project larger drops in home values for Mount Vernon by May 2026, but the crash is already happening right now. Local economic conditions reveal why this city is doomed. The downtown core has been hollowing out for years, with vacant commercial buildings serving as monuments to better times. Without a viable business district, residential properties lose their anchor and values collapse accordingly. The demographic trends paint an even darker picture. Young families flee to surrounding counties for better schools and job opportunities, leaving behind an aging population that can't sustain property values. When your primary market becomes retirees trying to downsize, new construction stops and existing homes lose value. Transportation infrastructure compounds the problem. Mount Vernon sits far enough from major employment centers that commuting becomes impractical, but close enough that anyone with ambition moves away. That geographic reality creates a permanent economic disadvantage that no housing policy can overcome. The rental market offers no salvation either. Property investors avoid Mount Vernon because rental yields can't cover the carrying costs, especially with Illinois property taxes eating into every margin. Without investor demand propping up prices, the market has nowhere to go but down. Here's the bottom line on Mount Vernon. When economic forecasts, demographic trends, and current market data all point in the same direction, you're not looking at a temporary correction. You're witnessing the early stages of a housing market collapse that will accelerate throughout 2025. But we're nowhere near the worst cities yet. Before we dive into the next city, quick reminder, if you want more breakdowns like this, hit subscribe. I track the numbers every day so you know where the market's cracking before the headlines catch up. Number 6. Jacksonville. This central Illinois city embodies every warning sign economists look for before a housing crash. Jacksonville is specifically mentioned among cities facing larger projected drops in home values, and the local data confirms those fears are justified. The employment situation tells the whole story. Healthcare remains the primary industry, but hospital consolidation eliminated hundreds of jobs over the past 5 years. When your biggest employer starts cutting staff, residential demand collapses almost immediately. Student housing linked to Illinois College provides some stability, but that creates its own problems. The rental market caters to temporary residents who don't buy homes, artificially suppressing home ownership demand. Meanwhile, property taxes remain high to fund city services that college students use but don't pay for. Population demographics reveal the deeper crisis. Jacksonville's median age keeps climbing as young graduates leave for Chicago or St. Louis. An aging population means fewer home purchases, more deaths than births, and a shrinking tax base that can't support municipal services. The infrastructure burden makes everything worse. Aging water systems, crumbling roads, and deferred maintenance create massive municipal debt that gets passed to property owners through higher taxes. Who wants to buy a home where property taxes keep rising while services deteriorate? Commercial real estate vacancy rates tell the real story. Empty buildings line the main corridors, and retail businesses struggle to survive with a shrinking customer base. When commercial real estate fails, residential values follow within months. Here's Jacksonville's reality. When your primary employer cuts jobs, young people flee, and commercial districts empty out, residential real estate becomes a stranded asset. The crash isn't coming. It's already here. Number 5. Galesburg. The economic fundamentals in this western Illinois city are collapsing faster than most people realize. Galesburg appears specifically in forecasts warning of larger projected drops in home values, and current market conditions confirm those predictions are conservative. The manufacturing exodus tells the brutal truth about Galesburg's future. Major employers relocated operations to Mexico and Asia over the past decade, leaving behind empty factories and unemployed workers. Without manufacturing jobs, the entire economic ecosystem collapses. Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railway remains a significant employer, but railroad employment has been declining for decades due to automation and route consolidation. When your second biggest employer is slowly disappearing, residential demand follows the same trajectory. Knox College provides some economic stability, but college towns face unique challenges in 2025. Enrollment has been declining nationwide, and remote learning reduced demand for on-campus housing. Student housing competes with family housing, creating oversupply in both markets. The retail apocalypse hit Galesburg particularly hard. The mall closed, chain stores departed, and local businesses couldn't survive the population decline. When residents have to drive 30 minutes for basic shopping, the city becomes less attractive for young families. Property maintenance costs are killing homeowners. Many houses date from the early 20th century and require constant repairs that current residents can't afford. Deferred maintenance accelerates neighborhood decline, creating a vicious cycle of falling values and rising costs. Here's Galesburg's death spiral. Job losses lead to population decline, which kills retail, which makes the city less livable, which accelerates more job losses. Real estate becomes worthless when nobody wants to live there, regardless of price. The worst is yet to come on our countdown. Number 4. Decatur. The writing has been on the wall for this central Illinois city for years, and 2025 is when the bill comes due. Decatur ranks among the top 20 cities nationwide, with housing markets turning ugly, and the local conditions confirm this isn't hyperbole. Agriculture and manufacturing drove Decatur's economy for decades, but both sectors have been mechanizing and consolidating, eliminating thousands of jobs. Caterpillar and Archer Daniels Midland still have operations here, but their workforce keeps shrinking due to automation and efficiency improvements. The population flight accelerated during the pandemic and never stopped. Young professionals and families leave for better opportunities in Chicago, St. Louis, or Indianapolis, leaving behind an aging population that can't sustain housing demand. Educational outcomes compound the problem. Public schools struggle with declining enrollment and budget constraints, making Decatur less attractive for families with children. When school quality deteriorates, property values follow immediately. The commercial real estate sector reveals the broader economic decay. Downtown Decatur has been struggling for years, with vacant storefronts and limited business investment. Without a viable commercial core, residential neighborhoods lose their economic anchor. Crime statistics make everything worse. Rising property crime and public safety concerns discourage new residents, while existing homeowners feel trapped with unsellable properties. Insurance costs rise, but property values fall, creating negative equity for most homeowners. Infrastructure challenges create massive municipal debt. Aging water systems, deteriorating roads, and outdated public facilities require billions in investment that the shrinking tax base can't support. Higher property taxes become inevitable, further depressing housing demand. Here's Decatur's nightmare scenario. When major employers cut jobs, young families flee, schools deteriorate, and crime rises, real estate becomes a liability instead of an asset. The housing crash is just getting started. Number 3. Joliet. This Chicago suburb should be thriving, but the numbers tell a different story. Joliet ranks in the top 20 nationally for housing markets turning ugly, proving that proximity to Chicago can't save a fundamentally broken local economy. The prison economy that sustained Joliet for decades is disappearing. Stateville Correctional Center downsized significantly, eliminating hundreds of good-paying jobs that supported local businesses and residential demand. When government employment disappears, private sector jobs follow. Transportation costs are killing commuter demand. Rising gas prices and tolls make commuting to Chicago increasingly expensive, while remote work eliminated the need for suburban proximity. Joliet's primary selling point, affordable housing near Chicago, lost its relevance. The casino industry provides some employment, but gambling revenues have been declining as neighboring states legalize gaming. Competition from Indiana and Wisconsin casinos means fewer visitors and reduced employment at local gaming facilities. Manufacturing job losses compound the economic damage. Several major plants closed or relocated operations, eliminating thousands of middle-class jobs that supported home ownership. Without stable manufacturing employment, the housing market loses its foundation. Property tax burdens are crushing homeowners. Will County property taxes keep rising to fund schools and municipal services, but home values aren't keeping pace. Negative equity traps homeowners who can't afford to move but can't afford to stay. Infrastructure challenges create long-term problems. Aging roads, bridges, and water systems require massive investment that the declining tax base can't support. Deferred maintenance becomes permanent decline, making the city less attractive for new residents. Here's Joliet's cruel irony. Being close to Chicago should be an advantage, but it becomes a disadvantage when people can work remotely and choose better locations. The suburban dream becomes a suburban nightmare when the economics no longer work. Number 2. Aurora. The second largest city in Illinois is experiencing a housing disaster that most people don't see coming. Aurora ranks in the top 20 nationwide for housing markets turning ugly, and the local conditions are worse than the national rankings suggest. The manufacturing sector that built Aurora has been hemorrhaging jobs for years. Plant closures and relocations eliminated thousands of middle-class positions that supported home ownership and neighborhood stability. Without manufacturing wages, service sector jobs can't sustain current property values. The Hispanic population growth that politicians celebrate actually masks deeper economic problems. Many new residents work in agriculture or service jobs that don't pay enough to buy homes, creating rental demand but suppressing ownership rates. Home ownership decline indicates long-term economic weakness. School district challenges are driving family exodus. Aurora's schools struggle with overcrowding, budget constraints, and achievement gaps that make the city less attractive for middle-class families. When families with children leave, housing demand collapses. Crime statistics reveal growing public safety concerns. Property crime rates are rising while police budgets face constraints, creating neighborhood decline that accelerates property value deterioration. Fear drives middle-class flight faster than economic factors. The commercial real estate sector shows systemic weakness. Retail corridors struggle with vacancies, and new business investment has been declining for years. Without commercial vitality, residential neighborhoods lose their economic anchor and social cohesion. Infrastructure problems create massive fiscal challenges. Aurora's aging infrastructure requires billions in investment that the tax base can't support. Water systems, roads, and public facilities are deteriorating faster than they can be maintained. Here's Aurora's tragedy. The second largest city in Illinois should be thriving, but instead it's becoming a case study in suburban decline. When manufacturing jobs disappear and middle-class families flee, even large cities can experience housing market collapse. But the worst city is yet to come. Number 1. Peoria. Welcome to ground zero of the Illinois housing catastrophe. Peoria ranks as the worst housing market in the entire nation out of 500 cities evaluated. When housing experts look for the perfect storm of economic disaster, they point to Peoria as the textbook example. The numbers are absolutely devastating. The foreclosure rate hit 1 in every 932 homes, 21% of properties are underwater, double the national average, and home prices declined 16% over just 2 years. Those aren't correction numbers. Those are economic collapse numbers. Caterpillar's transformation from Peoria-based manufacturer to global corporation gutted the local economy. Thousands of engineering and manufacturing jobs relocated to other states and countries, leaving behind empty office buildings and unemployed workers. When your signature employer becomes a hollow corporate shell, the entire city suffers. Healthcare sector consolidation eliminated hundreds more good-paying jobs. Hospital mergers and insurance company relocations removed another pillar of middle-class employment that sustained homeownership for decades. Without healthcare jobs, the professional class disappears. The retail apocalypse hit Peoria particularly hard. Shopping centers closed, chain stores departed, and local businesses couldn't survive the population exodus. The Northwoods Mall struggles with vacancies, while online shopping eliminated thousands of retail jobs. Educational institutions provide some stability, but Bradley University can't single-handedly support an entire city's housing market. Student housing competes with family housing, while graduates flee immediately after graduation for better opportunities elsewhere. Infrastructure decay tells the story of municipal decline. Deteriorating roads, aging water systems, and deferred maintenance create massive fiscal challenges that bankrupt city budgets. Property taxes rise while services deteriorate, accelerating middle-class flight. Here's Peoria's death spiral. Corporate relocations kill jobs, which forces population decline, which destroys retail, which makes the city unlivable, which accelerates more corporate departures. Real estate becomes worthless when an entire city economy collapses. For buyers in Illinois, remember, patience and due diligence will win in 2025. Always check insurance costs, HOA rules, and even flood maps before making a move. For investors, this is no longer an appreciation play. Cash flow is everything, and negative leverage will sink you fast. And for sellers, price to reality, not to 2022, or your home will just sit. Finding this breakdown useful? Subscribe for daily market signals. Protect your wallet, subscribe, and share this with anyone thinking about buying in Illinois. And let me know in the comments, what are you seeing locally? Incentives, insurance spikes,